I remember being in the masculine, having to make the money and hustle and bustle, and then the being of the feminine, being in the feminine energy and just being and attracting, because when we're forcing, it just causes so much stress in the body, doesn't it?
We all have these concepts of responsibility, like taking it all on ourselves and not asking for help. But I reframed that to your response ability, because responding is always happening in the moment, and it's taking on all of you and responding to that.
Being the strong one can be this syndrome, this thing that we are drawn to, and not necessarily in a healthy way, but because either we feel like we need to be worthy or to have our place, or maybe we've learned from other people in our lives that nobody else is going to show up for us if we're not showing up.
It can be really dangerous, especially for women, for us to feel like we have to hold everything on our shoulders. That's why I think it's much more important for us to identify who our allies and partners and support systems are, and to normalize asking for help.
I think that I went into this space of just like, I'm the glue that holds the world together, and I can't be that glue all the time. But I feel like there's this something inside of the feminine that we are always holding it all together.
I had what I now call the martyr syndrome. And I just believed that I needed to run the home and was responsible for all the outcomes. And I was so stressed because I wanted my children to be achieving. I wanted them to be this and that. And I thought I had to be the driver behind all of that.
I'm more into the being now. And that's a new identity for me. It's not who I used to be. So I'm taking a whole new identity now and make money with ease and grace.
Hello, beautiful souls. It is Sophia from Sacred You. Thank you so much for being here. But before we dive into today's Wisdom Circle, I have a small request from my heart. If our conversations ever resonate with you or support you on your journey, please subscribe to our channel or like this video. It helps us grow Sacred You, welcome more powerful voices into this space, and keep you connected to everything we share. Thank you so much for walking this path with us, and let us begin with today's conversation.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon to all of you out in cyber world watching, and our ladies joining us today. Our monthly returning to self and reclaiming yourself, your inner wisdom circle. I'm Jo Anne Irwin. I'm an empowerment coach. I work with women to manage their anxiety and overwhelm and to connect with their authentic self so that they can live the life that they love and they choose. So that's a little bit about me. So thank you, ladies, for all coming to join us today. And as we know, in a world that's in so much chaos, craziness, it often pulls us also in our own world into different thousand directions. So this month, the circle's a really sacred invitation to just pause, breathe, and return home to ourselves, to our intuition, to our truth, and our feminine power. We're part of the Sacred You world, so we are all in this together. And the theme today I felt called to do, and it's a theme that I started the year with, was around support being your superpower. Yeah, and it's a series that I've been running. And today I'd love to center it around our circle, around the topic of being the strong one, right? Being the strong one. I know last month we dove into the fire horse and what that means for us moving into this new lunar year. That was amazing. So if anyone missed the replay of that, I encourage you to go back. The wisdom in our circles are phenomenal. So thank you, ladies, for joining us. And I would love to go around quickly and just let you introduce yourselves and say what you do, if that's all right. Let's start with Dr. Ida Greene. Good morning.
Yes, I call myself the miracle maker. I channel medicine source energy, and I help people to tap into that divine energy, that inner wisdom, the seed of divine energy, wholeness and wellness and peace and prosperity, so we can feel that in our bodies and feel grounded, so that there's more harmony, peace, harmony, and prosperity. You get rid of the overwhelmed overthinking, the anything that's keeping you from being your fully present in the moment, being who you really came to be in this lifetime.
Yeah, beautiful. We certainly need more peace specifically right now, don't we? Thank you, Ida. Okay, Phannie, I'm just going to pick on you.
Great. Thank you. I'm Phannie KRENTZMAN. I run the Radical Love Movement, and I train people in embodiment and embodying their authentic selves, and primarily teach everything using the body as the education.
Wow. Thank you, Phannie. Beautiful. Helen.
I teach pleasure. My
it.
business is called Pleasure Waves. As an erotic blueprint coach, I help people really find what gives them pleasure in their body and what would give another person that they're relating to pleasure in their body. It's all, since I have explored my own body and deepened in my pleasure, I have returned to myself in deeper and deeper ways, which is why I wanted to join this particular circle. So yes, I teach pleasure.
Beautiful. I love that. We can do with more pleasure for sure. 100%. And beautiful Laura, would you mind sharing you?
Yes. Yeah. So my name is Laura, and I help people quit unwanted habits such as procrastination, stress eating, hair pulling, skin picking, anything that you're saying, why can't I stop this? And I teach people to manage these behaviors not by pushing away the behavior, but by coming back to themselves and saying, what do I need in this moment? And how do I meet this need in a way that I feel good about?
That's amazing. Such a, yeah, I won't speak now. Let's let the ladies speak for themselves. Melissa.
Hello, hello. I'm Melissa Range, and I am a professional speaker, and I'm also a certified firewalk and glasswalk instructor. So I mentor and empower mostly women, but I have been doing this for several years, and I teach fear to confidence.
Wow. And finally, beautiful Megan.
My name is Dr. Megan Sweet. I'm a Reiki master practitioner, intuitive guide, and death doula. And I work with people on how to come back to themselves and to become empowered through healing.
Thank you so much. And what I was going to say before, after Laura, was there's such an array of beautiful expertise in our group today. So I'm very excited to have this conversation with you all. And anyone watching in our audience has any questions, just drop them in and we'll, if we have time, we'll get to them. If not, we'll get back to you. So thank you, everyone. I really enjoy starting my circles with a short grounding meditation, just so that we can bring us all back into the space. So diving in, before we dive in, let's hold space for anyone that's not feeling particularly good in the world right now, and also within ourselves. And let's arrive back into this time and ground ourselves in this moment. Just briefly feeling your feet on the ground, taking a few deep breaths and just bringing yourself into this space. Maybe you need to make a few movements, roll your shoulders or your head, and just ground yourself into the moment. Spine tall but not rigid. Shoulders soften away from the ears. And just slowly, one inhale through the nose and one very long exhale through the mouth. And just bringing awareness into the body, noticing if you're holding any tension. Notice if you're feeling any responsibility or you're on guard or alert. And it's time to let go of anything that you may be holding. And just ask yourself, what would it feel like to not be the strong one for a moment, not need to hold everything together even for this time and having to be perfect or say it right, or just ask, what would that feel like? Letting go of that responsibility now. And then arriving here, not as a supporter, but as a woman, being supported by this space. This is what we're all here for. Beautiful. Taking one big last breath. Sometimes we need to sigh it out. Beautiful. Thank you, ladies. And I've been noticing of late, I don't know if you ladies have, and I do a lot in my work, notice this theme that we're going into today, that many of us holding the energy for others. And I know we need to in our work. It's part of what we do. But the strong one has become like a syndrome, right? The strong syndrome, where you're just holding space for not just your clients, but your family, your friends, your loved ones. And it's something I feel has been running us innately from the beginning of time. And I'm sure you can all relate. There's parts of me I've had to let go of and have to replenish my own energy before I can completely support another. The person that picks up the phone, to a lot of women out there will relate to even their children. And I'm sure we all do that. But often you feel like you're responsible and you need to take that call at that moment, or your friend. Yeah, the one who holds space for everyone. The one who keeps on has to have it together, basically. And I know a lot of us feel that we have to have it together because the work that we do, and we have to seem to look that way to the outside world. And that's looking that way, then people will want to come to us. But sometimes we actually we're struggling ourselves. Yeah, we're really struggling ourselves. And I know I've had moments of that. But just looking on the outside, I've got it all together, but deep down, I've been struggling in my own life. And I'm sure we can all relate to that. So I'm curious. I'm really curious. What does being the strong one mean to you? What does being the strong one mean to you? And whoever wants to jump in and start this conversation, please do.
I can start. I think that that you called out that being the strong one can be this syndrome, this thing that we are drawn to, and not necessarily in a healthy way, and not necessarily for aligned reasons, but because either we feel like we need to be worthy or to have our place, or maybe we've learned from other people in our lives that nobody else is going to show up for us if we're not showing up. Sometimes we fall into this role because we learn that there's no safety net, right? And that we have to be the safety net. And so I think it's something that I'm trying to change my relationship with. I know for many years, I've been the strong one and felt like I was the one kind of holding everything together. And if I didn't, then the wheels would fall off and we would just crash and burn. And I've been trying to let go of that a bit and soften. I even had a day recently where I wasn't feeling well, was dealing with some emotional stuff, and I called into work, which in the past I would have just powered through and said, no, I've got these appointments. And instead I said, I really need this space for me today. And everybody is going to have to wait at least a day. But it's a hard thing to let go of.
Yeah, it is a hard thing. It's, programming. I can totally relate to having to hold it all together and having to be the responsible one. And nobody was going to do it for me. And we carry that through to our adulthood, don't we? As a child, had to stand up for myself. And I think it's something that's very deeply embedded. So thank you for sharing that piece, Laura.
Yeah, I agree with Laura. I think it can be really dangerous, especially for women, for us to feel like we have to hold everything on our shoulders. I'm a single mom, and if I'm sick, nothing does happen around the house. But that's why I think it's something much more important for us to identify who our allies and partners and support systems are, and to normalize asking for help. So I think we're getting better as a society of naming that we can't all be perfect and do it all the time. But I know recently things were so hard that I needed to ask for help. And it was pushed to the point of I didn't have a choice. But what was amazing is when I did ask for help and say that I needed support, how much was available and what a gift it is to other people to allow them to show up for you, because that it makes space for others to ask for help when they need it next time. And I think the next iteration of our society is going to be one where we're showing a lot more care and support for one another, and where there is an interdependence that we unfortunately have moved away from. I believe we're moving back to it because we really need to.
Yeah, beautiful, Megan. Totally. And teaching people how to ask by asking ourselves. Yeah, that's gorgeous. I remember as a single mum, it's hard. It's like you feel like you have to do it all. That was a big learning for me also. Thank you. Phannie?
Yeah, what this is bringing up for me is I actually just wrote a blog on this, which is on responsibility. And we all have these concepts of responsibility, like taking it all on ourselves and not asking for help, being able to show up in these circumstances, or like whatever your version of responsibility is that you inherited, that you made up yourself, whatever. But I reframed that to your ability to respond, because responding is always happening in the moment, and it's taking on all of you and responding to that. So it's your response ability. And so if you can identify one that you're in your pattern of relating to things as they should be, as you needing to be perfect, as putting on this front so that people will take you seriously or whatever, blah, 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 and reorient that to actually listening to the response that's needed for yourself, for the circumstance. And what Megan said also is like, when you don't just strong arm everything and are the reliable whatever, you give other people the opportunity to also show up, to also participate, to listen to their own needs and honor them as well. And so that's something that has been a mantra for me lately, is this like responsibility versus responsibility, which is a concept that we've embodied rather than actually being in the moment we're in and responding appropriately depending on what's now.
Ooh, goosebumps. I love that. Response ability, the ability to respond, well, rather than react as well. It's almost like a play with the opposite of a reframe of that. So I love that. Thank you so much. And that you wrote a blog about it recently. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Awesome. Anyone else want to pipe in with there's Melissa.
Okay. I will share too. This is so funny that we're talking about this, because I was journaling about this exact thing this morning. And the same thing came up, that what Phannie was just sharing about what's my response ability. Because for a long time, and I think I was doing so good. And then when my father died, and then COVID and all of that, and then my mom died, and I'm a single mom, and I was holding it with my work and my children, and we got a puppy on top of all of that. And I think that I went into this space of just like, I'm the glue that holds the world together, and I can't be that glue all the time. But I feel like there's this something inside of the feminine, of course, that we are always holding it all together. And it was a learning process and an unraveling. I was saying this morning, it was an undoing, unwinding, unraveling of those beliefs that I had to do everything by myself, because I don't. And I've gotten better and better, as Megan just said, for asking for help, because I couldn't do it all. And one of the ways I started doing that was putting more responsibility then on my children to take care of themselves the way that I knew they were capable, and letting go of things and not worrying about the mess the way it is sometimes, or not worrying about making sure my house always looked perfect. And those are things that, because our society tells us that we have to have things a certain way, and we've been so indoctrinated and programmed, I don't know about you all, but where I live, that's the way it is, that I really had to learn I can let go and everything will still get done. I can just be and not have to always do, and everything will still fall into place. But it took me, for the listeners, it doesn't happen in an hour, in a day, in a week, overnight. We can ask for help right away, and sometimes we do get it like that. But I think for me, my belief system was so, I have to do it myself. And now I've changed. So this really is an important concept that we need to embody and embrace, especially women, because it has been a long time coming for me, for sure.
100%. Thank you. That's so beautiful. I'm really pleased that you brought in the beliefs part, because they're so deeply embedded, our beliefs, in a lot of areas of our life, but specifically here in having to do it all and carrying it all and unwiring those beliefs. And I'm sorry about your parents and all that you went through, but it's a practice. It doesn't happen overnight. As Laura alluded to, actually, it's an act of self-love. It's an act of self-respect, calling into work. That's relearning. Okay, I'm more important than anything else right now. And honoring self. Isn't that just such an important piece? And I know Helen wants to speak, so.
Thank you. And I do want to hear what Ida would have to say as well before we move on. I have seen a meme that's going around on Facebook at the moment that children who are given responsibility as they're growing up become more capable as adults. And I would say I was completely guilty of disempowering my own children as I brought them up. I had what I now call the martyr syndrome, and grew up in the Christian church and listened to the sort of teaching that was going around then. There's some better spins on some of that from some women theologians now who are starting to reinterpret things. But we grow up in this soup. And I just believed that I needed to run the home and was responsible for all outcomes. And I was so stressed because I wanted my children to be achieving. I wanted them to be this and that. And I thought I had to be the driver behind all of that. And in recent times, I've been working with an energy coach, this amazing woman called Sarah McCrum, who's teaching me just to relax. It's different to meditation, it's relaxation. And I do relaxations several times through the day. And I'm letting go now of all those energetic ties that I've had where I'm wanting to force my children to be this, my husband to be that, because I'm now coming into a better version of myself. And I feel supported just by the energy around me. So yeah, I moved into I've got a long way to go. You walk a mile, you see a mile. I feel like that because I was wired to not be relaxed. I came from a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant family. We call that a WASP family, WASP. And I was wired to be a stressed out woman who was going to create disease, be so unwell in her 60s that by the time she was 70, she looked like a worn out old thing. And here I'm about to turn 68 and I'm feeling amazing. Yeah.
Perfect example of turning your life around. You are a perfect example of that. And I love that piece around relax. I don't think we've ever been taught to relax. And a piece around children wanting them to be a certain way, and that expectations, that societal expectations, that ancestral programming, all of that we carry through. And it's just, I'm going to call BS on it, because I feel like I was in survival when I was bringing up my 4 children on my own. I was just in survival, food on the table, roof over the head, work. And by default, when you're talking about by default, they stood up, they stepped up, they became resilient, they became, all of my children so successful today, probably more than me. But by default, they learned, they had to do things. They weren't forced to do it because my energy was somewhere else. It was about survival. So there's good and bad in everything. I'm blessed that I was a single mum because they learned to stand on their own 2 feet. But I wonder if we move on. Did you have anything to say about this, or shall we move on to, I would love to go more into the, sorry?
I'm more into I used to be in the doing of the accomplishment thing, just like a success machine in terms of being a teacher and a nurse and being an author of 24 books and been an ordained minister and a therapist and a coach. I just wore many hats, and like each of those were many lifetimes. Each had their own lifetime. Even married to a schizophrenic husband, a bipolar husband, alcoholic, and physically abusive. I've had all those lifetimes, and I'm now into that being, but I don't have to do anything. And so it's a good place to be in because it feels like I'm lazy, but then I'm not lazy. And I'm allowing myself to relax, like I get up when I need to get up, although it has affected my cash flow. So I do have to get myself up to do something, but I'm more into the being now. And that's a new identity for me. It's not who I used to be. So I'm taking a whole new identity now and making that ease and make money with ease and grace rather than being stressed to create the money. And so I'm in that process of making money the easy way. I used to make it this fast way, that go way, and now it's a whole new process of making money.
Yes, love that. I love that piece because because I remember being in the masculine, having to make the money and hustle and bustle, and then the being of the feminine, being in the feminine energy and just being and attracting, because when we're forcing it just causes so much stress in the body, doesn't it? But being, and that piece about, interesting what you said about being lazy, it could be seen as, or having that feeling of, oh, I'm being lazy. That's another deeply embedded, rooted belief, isn't it? About, oh, I'm being lazy. No, I'm being an attractive. And that was a piece I really had to work hard on, because I felt like if I wasn't doing something, I wasn't getting anywhere. So it was like, oh, come on. And that fear was driving me of, yeah, there's so much in this conversation. So thank you for being in that piece. And I think that's where we're all alluding to, that being place, right? Just being in the moment, being present, being in our feminine energy, still doing. I'm not saying don't do anything, but you have to do things. We have to have movement to create, but just be. And it's a season of life too. And it's also, as we get older, we learn more and more about that. So thank you for bringing that piece. Yeah. And I know we tapped on the family roles, the childhood dynamics perhaps, and you're probably already thinking about where it began for you. Where did that strong one syndrome begin for you? You know, being the mature one, being the responsible one. I know my daughter, my eldest, carried that because she was the eldest of 4. And she, you know, mum was always working, so she felt responsible for the others. And we're trying to break that right now. She's turning 45 in a few days, at the end of this month. And so still working with her on that. Come on, girl, you don't have to be the responsible one. And someone mentioned holding it all together for the family. That's hers. We all carry it. And being the reliable one too. There's all these parts of ourselves. But do you remember, does anyone actually remember the first time that or any memories that alluded to that? And the other piece around that, if you want to go there, is what did being the strong one protect you from? Safety and security, our number one human need. So what were you protecting? What were you being protected from? If you feel called to go that deep,
I'll respond to that.
Yep.
Although they were reliable, my mom and my dad both had a problem with alcohol, and someone needed to keep the family together. And so I did that because I was just able to do it, and it gave me a sense of power and responsibility, because I learned to do things that I learned how to pay bills. I didn't resent it. Somehow I just knew someone needed to do it. So I just took on that job and did it. And later on in life, it served me because I know how to pay bills. I learned that a lot of skills, had I not been responsible, I would not have learned them. So at the time, I didn't resent it because someone needed to do it. And someone had to do it. And I was there to do it. but it served me later on in life by having learned those skills. I thought, I'm not do that. So it gave me peace of mind whenever I had to do something. I thought, I've done that before, I've done that, I've done that. So it just was a good place to be in for me. So it wasn't a bad place. It was a place where I need to step into. Someone had to do it, and I did it.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yes. Yes. So it served you later in life. So it's not a bad thing, but because we learn skills too that we need, life skills. And that, I think that's really important. So thank you, Ida. Phannie, do you want to jump in?
Sure. Yeah. Just nodding along over here. I just like structurally in my personality, the way that I relate to survival is being the peacekeeper. And so a lot of my responsibility stuff was around caretaking my mom's emotions and her feelings and being very sensitive to energy and the emotional landscape of people. And in that, I really disappeared myself. There wasn't space for me to exist. And I've repeated that pattern, like in relationships and business partners and whatever, of this like defaulting and like being, and to speak to what Ida was saying, it's like, it is definitely one of my superpowers to be able to read people and sense them and know what's going on. And I can use that to my benefit functionally and serving them, or I can use it dysfunctionally and make it a reason for me to hide or not express or whatever. But definitely like that trait concretized when my parents separated and my brother went away to college, and it was just me, and I had to, and for it, like what it protected me from was what it guaranteed was getting my mother's love, like being available to her in the way that she needed at that time. Even though I was 13 years old, I was still a kid. It made it so that if I was caretaking her, then she could be available to me. I made up about that was that if I didn't, then she wouldn't. And I'd already lost my dad and my brother was gone and whatever and blah, blah, blah. I'd say that's when that happened for me.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And attention, getting love, seeking love. Beautiful, beautiful. Laura, love to hear from you.
I think that for me, the time that I think back to is my mom was a single teenage mom. And so I think she was still a child herself as she was raising me and didn't quite have the emotional maturity. And so there was this, as Phannie was saying, there wasn't really space for me because she was struggling with her own thing. And so I learned to keep small. And later on, she married somebody who was incredibly volatile. And again, that person's emotions took up so much space in the family that there just wasn't room. And it was a situation where I learned that I had to keep quiet and keep the peace and also achieve and do things quote unquote perfectly. I remember there was an Alanis Morissette song. Lyrics are, "I'll love you just the way you are if you're perfect." And I used to like blast that song when I was a teenager because that's how I felt, that in order for me to be loved, I needed to be perfect and I couldn't make mistakes. And so I think it protected me from when I made mistakes, I disappointed people. And I was in a situation where the adults in my life didn't have the emotional maturity to guide me through that disappointment or help me understand that. And so it was really avoiding their disappointment or avoiding their rejection that brought me to learning how to hold it all together. And also, like Phannie said, being able to read the room and being able to walk into a room and sense, okay, are people angry? Do I need to be quiet? Do I need to keep things calm? Is there space for me to be me, or do I just need to lay low?
Yeah, safety all around. Yeah, safety in your environment. And that's actually a superpower, right? It's just like Fanny said, it's like reading the energy of the room to keep your own energy protected and yourself safe, but also lots of truth in that one. I'm sure lots of people can relate to that. How to behave, to keep the peace, whoa, that's a big one. Thank you for sharing that, Laura. Where are we going next? Okay, Melissa.
I think that when I was young, it wasn't safe to fall apart. It wasn't safe to express my emotions. And so what ended up happening would be I would either be so mad about something or I would be so sad about something and I would just stuff it because I would watch my parents and my mom wouldn't bring up her feelings or share them with my dad, and my dad would treat her a certain way. And so I was one of three girls, and I would just witness that my mom didn't use her voice. She didn't express her anger or her frustration with my dad. And to keep myself safe, it was like, don't show your deepest feelings because it's not safe. Again, there's that word safety. And I was also the peacemaker. And then what ended up happening as well was I was the one that was the big energy, fun, loud, attention seeking, the one who was always trying to not let you cry because I didn't want to see you cry. And that made me then not express my tears, or if I had a bad day at school, I had to really be pushed against a wall to express those feelings. And it took me a very long time to be able to do that and show my vulnerability, I guess is the point, to show my vulnerability that I had a bad day or that I was feeling down in the dumps or I was angry about something that happened. And I think that that is something that for many generations women didn't do. We didn't express how we truly felt, and we stuffed a lot of stuff. So now I'm so much more vocal, not in a way that I just can say, hey, I'm not feeling good about that. Or I can cry and not feel as though I'm a weepy woman. And it's just the way I am. So that's what popped in for me.
Wow, thank you, Melissa. That's huge. And again, I'm sure a lot of people can relate because our early childhood is where a lot of these behaviors or this programming was embedded. And it's so much awareness. I can feel so much awareness now. We've had to do a lot of work to become who we are today and to even recognize that was the story, right? Because they're stories. They're just stories. It's not who we are at the core of our being. So thank you for bringing that piece. Helen, you want to jump in?
Brene Brown, I think in the introduction to Atlas of the Heart said, growing up, she learned to predict the future. She could tell what was going to happen in 20 minutes time. Wow. And I think that's a perfect explanation or a description of what it is like to be the parentalized child, to be watching the dynamics in your home and know when everything's going to blow up and who to put in what corner, where to go and hide to be safe. That was a lot of my experience as a child. My mother didn't want to have a child when I was the firstborn in the family, and she actually spent her life rejecting all four of her children. So I grew up with that sense of not being wanted, of protecting my three siblings, and that protector part still comes out now and again because the consequences for my family have been horrendous. Yeah, and the amount of work that I've needed to do to become a functional human being has, yeah, Phannie, I related very strongly to your story, Phannie. My mum was young when she fell pregnant with me. My parents stayed together for the children. Don't do that. They broke up when I was in late secondary school. So yeah, I've got a lot of lived experience of that and taking on responsibility for people that I didn't really have to hold responsibility for, and still, because I'm doing this energetic work, letting go of some of those ties and understanding that if I let that go, they can be in their own energy and stand in their own strength.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you, Helen. Just evokes some emotion in me talking about your childhood, and I remember just hiding under the blankets, just shaking, just what's next. So I think there's a lot of wisdom in this room and a lot of shared experiences, and I really love that. Megan, did you have something to add there?
In hearing all this, I think what's most important for us to pay attention to is that we need to take care of ourselves first. So there's, at least I'm sure in America, and I'm sure it's around the world, but you need to put your own oxygen mask on before you take care of anyone else. Mm. And I think as women, we're often encouraged to attend to others before we pay attention to ourselves and our needs. There's a lot of reinforcement in society for everyone to be the hero and to step in and take care of others. But when we're not attending to our own mental health and well-being, we're not paying attention to what our needs are, and we're not prioritizing taking care of ourselves, then we cause a lot of harm anyway, because we are stressed out, we're tired, we're acting from a place where we're not always as grounded or clear what our needs are. And the impact can sometimes be even more profound than what we think will happen if we don't step in and sacrifice right away. So I think a key to being a strong person is to be your own ally first and your greatest advocate before anyone else, including your children, which is hard and can feel counterintuitive, but I think it just makes us better parents and human beings when we do that.
Yeah, thank you, Megan. That's so true. And yes, it's leading into the next part that I wanted to ask you ladies about, and the cost of being the strong one. I watched my mum crumble to her death at the age of 61. And from being the peacemaker, not expressing her emotions, you would never know how she felt, right? Because she held everything in. So what do you feel like the cost of being the strong one? There's something powerful in trusting yourself and thinking that you're the only one that can do it, and trust your own self. But also there's something heavy about always having to be the container for everyone. And so the cost is, we can probably, who would like to jump in here? Not feeling safe to fall apart. People assuming that you're fine, but also illness and disease in the body.
Yeah, and I can go. Yeah, and that's exactly what I was going to say as far as going to illness. I think the cost is nervous system dysregulation, and then that leads to inflammation, and then that leads to illness and disease. We weren't meant to be in stressed states, and definitely we were meant to be stressed to get away from the bear, and then we either got away from the bear and we could relax, or we didn't get away from the bear and that was it. But we weren't meant to be in these heightened states for these extended periods of time like we are now. And yeah, the cost is inflammation and disease, and it really does wreak havoc on our bodies, right? We think a lot of people think about it just in the mind, but really it's in our bodies. Our bodies pay a very big cost when we're dysregulated all the time.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah,
let me address that. I, at an early age, in fact, I left home when I was 17. My parents used to get into arguments and fights, and I got tired of separating them, being the policeman, and I didn't want to be the one that raised the kids. So when I got 17, I left home because I didn't want to be that responsible. I didn't want to be responsible for that. But I recently had a situation where I had a problem with my thyroid gland. My thyroid apparently had been lodged for 12 years. And my doctor never told me, but I'm glad he didn't tell me about it. He sold his practice in December, and then he told me I saw that large thyroid in 2012, but he never told me about it. He watched it grow. He said, I want to see what it's like before I leave I'm selling my practice, I'm leaving my business. And I got really afraid. I had a girlfriend who I didn't know had cancer, and she died from cancer. And so I had this thought, oh, what if this is cancerous? And I got so upset. I contracted an autoimmune thing where I broke out in a rash all over my body. And one doctor said, I can't find anything. It's in your mind, where he couldn't find anything wrong with it. So I said, I need to go. I have an emergency. I want to see a different doctor. I don't want that man. I need to find somebody who can tell me what it is. He finally said, it's your autoimmune system. It's working against you. He said, that happens sometimes when people are under a lot of stress. So that made sense. And I'm still working on that. But I had this thing where I would rub my skin from this anxiety or stress, and I'd get these red marks on my skin. And then I had to protect my own skin, wearing, he said, gloves at night just to say I wouldn't rub my skin. So I had to really, I'm getting into that place now where I'm into relaxation, peace. I never realized how strong there's a mind-body connection. My mind thought that I might have cancer, and I got all upset about this. And, he said, you have trouble eating? I said, no, I can eat, I can swallow. But just to think that it might be cancerous got me into a whole new place. And now it just happened in December. So I'm just in this process now of relaxing and talking to myself and meditating myself. I've been meditating for the past 20 years, but to think that I might have cancer and that I might die get me to a whole different place.
Whole new level. Yeah. A whole new, a whole new area. Isn't it interesting how life can show us something more? Like,
I never had that.
Go deeper. And stress, right?
Yeah.
I'm glad the doctor pinpointed that and didn't just fill you with.
I had to feel it myself. He didn't tell me.
Okay, cool.
So I've got another doctor. He said, I don't know what it is. So I thought, what I really did, I talked to myself. I said, I have the skin and the body of Jesus and God. Their skin is perfect. There's nothing wrong with their skin. So it shouldn't be anything with my skin. So I had to really talk myself daily.
Yeah, beautiful.
Program my own mind. I'm still doing that. Program my mind to relax and calm down. They found out after the biopsy there was no cancer.
Wow. There you go. And you've already just given the audience something to do, like an action step. Talk to your body. Talk to your body. Reprogram the mind and tell the body what it really needs to hear. I love that. Thank you, Dr. I. Okay, whoever, jump in.
Okay, I'll just go next. What I was thinking was regret. So I think that a lot of people, what I've noticed, and I talk a lot about this with people, is if you don't take care of yourself or you don't want to do what you want to do, what's going to happen at the end of your life? Are you going to look back and say, I wish I would have, I should have? And people have told me, I don't want to end up when I'm 80 or 90 or whatever saying, I wish I would have sat with my emotions, or I wish I would have traveled the way I wanted to, but I was taking care of everybody else. And people will get that martyr syndrome or that victim syndrome and live like that their whole lives, instead of stepping into the place where maybe they're afraid, but where they know that their heart calls them to go. And I definitely think illness is a massive piece of this. And I really do, because I watched my own mother go through that by not expressing her own emotions, and my aunt. And it's just, I believe that we need to express this stuff. And I always say, find a safe person, find somebody that you can trust, find someone that supports you, and share it, because we will get to the end of our lives and we'll say, why didn't I do that? Or that's how I think of it. So that's
absolutely 100%. And also, isn't it the number one wish of the dying? The biggest was the regret, not living, being the way they wanted to be. So there's something huge in that. Thanks, Melissa. Phannie?
Yeah, Melissa, I'm glad you went first. The cost is your heart. The cost is not being who you were born to be. And I love that people have brought up the body so much here. This is a big part of the work that I do, is like, people talk about mind-body connection, but actually it's a body-mind. You don't have a mind without a body. Your body and its patterns and how it's organized actually emerge your mind and the way you think and the way that you perceive things. And you cannot separate them under any circumstances. Are they separate ever at any point? And the whole idea that they're separate is like mind-boggling to me. But it's such an important, everything that you're talking about, right? Everybody's talking about is so important right now, because expression is energy moving. Life is movement. Your body is a tuning rod to express who you are at your core. Your body is that tuning rod. And when you deny that and you try to filter it through these ideas and structures that aren't your own, you get diseased, you get diseased, you get pain, you get whatever it is. And you can actually shift that experience by shifting where your attention is, because where attention goes, energy flows. I don't know if anybody's heard that one before.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's, the cost is high. The cost is your heart. Regret is a symptom of that. And it's just, don't do that. You choose now. Choose now. You have the calling. Even if you don't think you do, it's in there. And do that.
I love that. Cost is your life, right? It's your life. It's your birthright and your life. Gosh, we're coming out with the cliches today. Thank you. Thank you, Phannie. Oh, dear. And I really wanted to, I know we're short of time, so I just really wanted to ask you ladies, but also the audience, a question that maybe they can ponder or journal about to get them more into embodying this piece around support and having that support as your superpower. And I want to ask so who holds you when you're not holding anyone else? Something to think about. Who holds you when you're not holding anyone else?
Can I respond?
Sorry, Dr. Ida. The other piece around, I just want to stay in the energy of that for a second and just the other piece around that is, do you let anyone? And this is for our audience to ponder mainly, because I know that you ladies pretty much got it together here and have the ability to ask, but we still fall into those old patterns, right? So it's good to remember and ask who holds you when you're not holding anyone else, and do you let anyone? And because we've only got 5 minutes, I'm just going to let that ponder, because there's something else I want you ladies to share with our audience before we close today. And I want to invite each of you to just share like one word that every woman listening today, that they can carry that with them. One word that feels like medicine, like magic medicine, that reminds them that they don't have to do this alone. Just one, maybe held, safe. Like safe came up a lot today, didn't it? Safety. So
I would say inner wisdom.
Inner wisdom. I love that.
Wisdom.
Thank you, Dr. Ida.
I would say connect.
Beautiful, Melissa. Integration. Helen.
Pleasure.
Pleasure, of course. We need more pleasure. 100%.
I would say choice.
Choice. Beautiful.
I would say ask, as in ask yourself. Ask the question.
Yeah. Ask. Beautiful. And I would say worthy. Worthy. We're all worthy of it all. And we just have to believe that, embody that worthiness. This has been an absolutely beautiful collective wisdom of women in this space today, and talking all things, sharing authentically your whole heart and soul. I love the piece also around body first. Thanks, Phannie, for reminding us of that. And your own shared experiences and wisdom here. So as we close our circle today, I want to offer all of the audience something that to sit with until we meet again, and maybe again journal on where can I allow myself to be supported more, or just a little this month, this next month. Practice, how can I be supportive? Where can I allow myself to be more supported? And notice what comes up, because there will be resistance, there will be fear, there will be longing, or maybe relief even. Oh, it's okay, because you're relearning how to ask and practice, because it's a practice, a relearning how to come home to ourselves. And maybe you want to journal a bit more on that, and just notice moments that you're defaulting just to be the strong one, and experiment just one day at a time. One small act of receiving. Receiving is a big piece of this, isn't it? Receiving. Yeah. not as pressure, but as permission. Give yourself permission. So thank you, everybody. If you feel called to speak more, then this is it, because we've only got a few minutes.
Jo, can I ask you,
Sure.
first of all, can I thank you for a wonderful wisdom circle, for facilitating a wisdom circle? But I'm not quite sure if we heard your word.
My word, yes, it was worthy. My word was worthy. Yeah.
Good.
We are worthy. We deserve to be living a life of abundance and freedom and love and trust. Trusting the process. Nothing's bad, nothing's wrong. It's just a learning. So thank you so much, everybody. Ladies, your wisdom is going to touch so many people around the world. Thank you, Sacred You community, for hosting these events, because without it, the world wouldn't be as good. And I know there's a lot going on in the world, but we need to trust that the only thing that we can change is within us. And that's why we do the work, right? So we can have energetically send that love and healing out and walk in peace and freedom.
Thank you. Again, thank you. And thank you for everyone who has taken up an hour or given an hour of your time to share your wonderful wisdom. It is so appreciated. And for anyone who is watching the live or the replay, do click on the links below and reach out to these amazing women. And while you're there, of course, check out Sacred You. Obviously, it's sacredyou.love is our website. Come and join us for free if you like. Come and visit the village. Hang out in our village where we post and share so much wisdom and so much knowledge, including these amazing wisdom circles. And Jo will be back next month for the next segment, the next episode of Reclaiming Yourself, Returning to Self, which is so important for everyone. And again, thank you, Dr. Ida and Helen and Phannie and Laura and Megan and Melissa. What a wonderful, I'm not going to say bunch. Just thank you for coming from all over the world. It is truly appreciated that you've given up an hour of your time. And we will see everyone next time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone.